Welcome back to Scouting Movies, everybody. Uh, Today we're going to talk about a movie that stars rock star Phil Collins. Um, he is obviously a singer, a rock star. He also did some acting, and this is one of the movies that he starred in. It's a movie called Buster, and let's talk about the synopsis first, and then jump into the review. Buster is loosely based on the 1963 Great Train Robbery in Great Britain, one of the most infamous heists in history. Uh, Here's the curveball, though: the film isn't really about the robbery. That bit's over in the first half hour, 40 minutes or so. What we get instead is the story of what happened after the crime, when the cash is stashed, when the adrenaline wears off, reality starts to creep in. We follow Buster Edwards, that's Phil Collins, as he flees to Mexico with his wife and daughter, only to discover that paradise kind of sucks when you're lonely, guilt ridden, and homesick. So um, let's go. Let's talk about that choice first. Most movies about a heist would put that as the grand finale, the climax of the film. Um, the slow mo shots, the last second escape, maybe a helicopter, all of that. But Buster pulls this clever little switcheroo. It shifts the tension from will they get away with it to can you live with what you've done. And that's honestly a lot more interesting because we see a lot of films about heists and they're all the same. Uh, they most of them get away with it, although uh, there's challenges and things like that. We've seen a dozen and a half heist movies pulled off the same way. What we don't see often is the repercussions of what happens after to the people, to the uh, to the guilt and the conscience and things like that. So it becomes a story about consequences, not crimes, about love, not loot. And honestly, that's a much braver move than it really seems on paper. Um, we'll get back to that side of the story in a second. Let's talk about some performances. First of all, Phil Collins. He's not a trained actor necessarily. Yes, you can tell, but he doesn't embarrass himself. He's low key, charming. He's a little awkward. He's surprisingly sincere, but he never overplays his hand. He knows his range. He stays inside the lines. He's a good main character to watch. He's easy to root for because he seems like an everyman, even though you're watching a rock star, as a rock star. He's playing it so down to earth that you think he's just a regular old guy that's dealing with the repercussions of pulling off this heist. Julie Walters, though, is the real MVP of this movie. She's electric. I mean, every time she's on screen, the film sharpens. She's the one that brings the emotional weight to this film, the grounding in the reality of this location, of this time period. It keeps the story from floating away into some kind of tropical fluff. Uh, she decides later on in the film that she's had enough of this fantasy of escaping to Acapulco, Mexico, and she heads home because you feel it. It's not some kind of melodramatic exit where she throws up this great tantrum and leaves. It's heartbreak wrapped in honesty. Um, this part of the theme of Buster is this escapism, this idea that you're escaping your life of boredom into this great life of vacation and beaches and things like that forever. Uh, what does home actually mean? I mean, on the surface, Acapulco looks like the dream, right? There's beaches, there's sun, there's no cops in sight. Um, but have you ever been on vacations where you're there for a while, a week, a week and a half, 2 weeks, and soon near the end of your vacation, you're starting to miss the normal life. You want to get back to normal life sometimes. It's vacation sets you on this pace in your heart and in your anxiety that you're always kind of looking for the next thing to do. And sometimes you want to go back to reality. You want to go back to life the way it is. Um, and that's kind of what this movie's about. I mean, imagine you living on the run in Acapulco, Mexico, not for a week long vacation, but for the rest of your life. Like there's a sense of anxiety there that is hard to manage, and that's what happens to June. That's what happens to Julie Walters' character. It's a gilded cage for her. She misses her mother. She misses London's dreariness, the normal life, her house, her job, her everything like that. She misses real life. The film doesn't treat that longing like weakness; it treats it like truth. And there's a line after June goes back and leaves Buster in Mexico, and now he's by himself. He's lonely, and he realizes that escaping to Mexico wasn't the final end all be all for him. Uh, Mexico and on the run didn't mean the same if he didn't have his family with him. What does home mean in that case? He looks at her after he gets back to London. He says, it's not about Mexico. Or I think they're talking on the phone when he says this. It's about you. It's always been about you. It's super simple, but it lands because by that point, you know it's not just a romantic line; it's a confession. He wasn't running to something; he was running away from the law. But it didn't mean anything anymore if he didn't have the ones that he loved with him. There's also a daughter in this that goes back with their wife to London. Um, and that's an important thing. I think when they're in Mexico, she gets the daughter gets sick, and they take her to a hospital. They don't speak the language. It's a different kind of system than what they're used to in London, and it really kind of highlights everything for June that this is not home. This is a nightmare. So um, it's a really interesting take on what running away from the law means because at at some point the real story of Buster Edwards, who was such a minor character in the Great Train Robbery, but why they make a movie out of him is because he had it all. He had the ability to run away and escape the law completely with a bunch of money, but he returned to London to turn himself into the law because he missed his wife. That's a really great romantic story. Um, Collins, the actor, is fine. Collins, the musician, that's where some of the magic kicks in. The soundtrack is amazing. It's stellar, especially the song Two Hearts, which got a well earned Oscar nomination. It's catchy, it's warm, it carries just enough emotional punch to leave a mark. It gives this film a hopeful little heartbeat, even when the story turns somber. So, some final thoughts about Buster. It's one of those quiet little curveballs. You go in expecting a crime caper, and you go out with this love story about guilt and choices, the home you left behind. It's a crime film, I guess for sure, but not one that glorifies the crime. Instead, it asks what happens after. And in doing that, it finds something a whole lot more human than you would have expected from just this normal crime caper. So, what rating, what grade will I give Buster? I'm going to give it a solid B. It's not perfect. Phil Collins has his limitations. The pacing isn't for everyone, but it is surprisingly moving. It's smartly structured. It's anchored by a really great Julie Walters performance. It's definitely worth a look. So, have you seen Buster? You're probably one of the few. This is another one of those movies that probably not a lot of people have seen. But if you've seen it, did it catch you off guard like it did to me? Or were you just here for Phil Collins' soundtrack? Let me know in the comments. Hey, let me know if you're into movies like this where they sneak up on you instead of uh, just they're either worth the hype, they're not worth the hype, or let me know what movies you want to review. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment. I'll see you next time. Thanks.